In the heart of Charleston, South Carolina, Jamal Edwards had just left an intense brainstorming session at a co-working space downtown. At 34, Jamal had built a name for himself as a tech entrepreneur, founding a software company that revolutionized small business management. His latest project, however, wasn't about profits. It was a nonprofit focused on equipping underserved youth with digital skills. Today, he planned to open a business account for this initiative at Preston Financial, a prominent local bank. Clad in a tailored navy suit and polished leather shoes, Jamal entered the bank's elegant lobby. The pristine floors reflected the sunlight streaming in through the massive glass windows, and the air carried a faint whiff of fresh coffee. Approaching the receptionist, Jamal carried a neat folder with all the necessary paperwork. "Good afternoon," he greeted warmly. "I'd like to open a business account. May I speak to the manager, please?" The receptionist smiled and gestured toward a plush seating area. "Of course, sir. Please have a seat, and I'll inform her you're here." Moments later, Clara Benson, the branch manager, appeared. She was a middle-aged woman with perfectly coiffed hair and an air of rigid professionalism. Clara prided herself on running a tight ship, but harbored certain prejudices that sometimes influenced her judgment. She approached Jamal, her eyes briefly flickering over him with a noticeable coldness. "Hello, I'm Clara Benson, the branch manager. How can I assist you today?" Jamal stood and extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Benson. I'm Jamal Edwards. I'd like to open a business account for my organization. Here are my documents for review." Clara barely glanced at his hand before folding her arms. "And what kind of business are we talking about, Mr. Edwards?" "It's a nonprofit focused on teaching coding and tech skills to young people in underserved communities," Jamal explained, his tone friendly but professional. Clara's expression tightened as she took the folder, but didn't open it. "Do you have evidence that your funds are legitimate?" "We've had issues with people trying to open accounts for questionable purposes." Jamal tilted his head, slightly surprised. "Yes, all financial records and verifications are included in the paperwork. I've also been a personal account holder at this bank for years." Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. "Even so, we have strict policies to ensure no fraudulent activities are involved. I'll need to be thorough." Her words, and the icy tone she used, carried an implication that went beyond simple due diligence. Jamal's years of experience navigating subtle biases made it all too clear what was happening. He kept his composure. "That's understandable. Please take your time reviewing the documentation." Clara sat at her desk and sifted through the papers. But instead of focusing on the details, she began asking irrelevant questions about Jamal's credentials and the legitimacy of his nonprofit. Her tone grew increasingly sharp, and her skepticism became more blatant. Finally, she pushed the folder back toward him. "I don't think this account is a good fit for our bank. Your organization doesn't seem established enough, and frankly, your claims don't inspire confidence." Jamal's calm demeanor didn't waver. "I see. For the record, I'll be submitting a formal complaint about this interaction. You might want to verify my background before making such dismissive assumptions." Unbeknownst to Clara, several other customers in the bank had been quietly observing the exchange. One, a local influencer with a large social media following, began recording when Clara's dismissiveness became obvious. Jamal stood up, gathering his folder. "Thank you for your time, Ms. Benson. I hope this experience serves as a reminder to treat all your clients with respect." That evening, the influencer shared the video on social media with a detailed account of the encounter. Within hours, the clip went viral, sparking widespread outrage. Thousands of comments flooded in, calling out Clara's unprofessional and discriminatory behavior. The CEO of Preston Financial was soon tagged in the post, prompting swift action. By the next morning, Jamal's story had become a symbol of the challenges successful individuals still face, despite their achievements. Clara, on the other hand, would soon face the fallout of her actions, learning a harsh lesson about underestimating those she chose to dismiss. The next morning, Clara Benson walked into the Preston Financial branch to find a group of corporate officials waiting in the conference room. They informed her that her actions were under review for discriminatory practices, and she was immediately suspended. The news hit her like a cold slap, but she was too stunned to protest. Meanwhile, Jamal Edwards received a call from the bank CEO offering a sincere apology and personal assistance in opening his nonprofit's account. However, Jamal politely declined. "Thank you, but I've decided to move all my accounts to a financial institution that values its clients equally," he stated firmly. The incident gained national attention after the influencer's video spread across social media, igniting conversations about racism and bias within the financial industry. Jamal used the momentum to shine a light on his nonprofit, which saw a flood of donations and support from individuals and organizations eager to back his mission. Clara's professional life, however, took a sharp downward turn. Public outrage mounted against her as the video garnered millions of views. By the end of the week, she found herself facing termination. Sitting alone in her office for the last time, Clara read the damning words in her dismissal letter: gross misconduct and discriminatory practices. Her hands trembled as she realized the gravity of her actions. Clara had spent years using her position to exert unchecked authority, dismissing those she deemed unworthy of respect. But her treatment of Jamal had set off a chain of events that permanently tarnished her reputation. She had underestimated the power of accountability. What Clara didn't expect was that Jamal, the man she had belittled, wasn't finished. Rather than let the matter rest, he decided to use his resources to uncover more about her track record. With the help of his assistant, Lauren, Jamal hired a private investigator to dig into Clara's history. Interviews with former employees and clients revealed a troubling pattern. Clara had repeatedly targeted minorities and marginalized groups, denying them services, belittling their concerns, and in some cases, causing significant financial harm. Jamal compiled this evidence and filed a formal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EOC, ensuring Clara's actions would face legal scrutiny. He also partnered with civil rights groups to address systemic discrimination in the financial sector. Jamal made it clear that Clara's behavior wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a larger issue. The EEOC soon launched an investigation into Preston Financial, uncovering flaws in the bank's internal policies that enabled discriminatory practices. The institution faced steep fines, intense public criticism, and a loss of trust from its clients. Many customers, inspired by Jamal's stand, chose to close their accounts and move their business elsewhere. Clara's troubles multiplied. Her firing became public knowledge, making it nearly impossible for her to secure another position in the industry. Social media amplified her disgrace, turning her name into a byword for bias and unprofessionalism. Even her personal life was affected as friends and family distanced themselves, questioning her integrity. But Jamal wasn't solely focused on retribution. He believed in creating opportunities for growth and redemption. To that end, he organized a public forum on diversity and equity in business and extended an invitation to Clara. To his surprise, she accepted. When Clara stood to speak, her voice was heavy with remorse. "I made terrible mistakes. I let my biases guide my decisions, and I hurt people because of it. I've lost everything, but perhaps that's the price I must pay. All I can do now is try to learn and make amends." Jamal listened intently, his expression calm. After the event, he approached her and said, "Clara, admitting your mistakes is the first step. But real change takes action. If you're serious about making amends, there's work to be done." Clara nodded, her voice trembling. "I don't know where to start." Jamal handed her a card. "Volunteer with my nonprofit. Help the very communities you dismissed. That's how you start." Though hesitant, Clara eventually agreed. Over the following months, she began volunteering at Jamal's organization, teaching financial literacy and helping young entrepreneurs navigate the world of business. It was a humbling experience, but also a chance to rebuild her life and contribute meaningfully. For Jamal, the incident reinforced his commitment to justice and equity. What had begun as a painful encounter became a transformative moment, not just for himself, but for others who would benefit from the systemic changes he championed. Clara's journey became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked bias, while Jamal's actions demonstrated the power of resilience and purpose. In the end, the ripple effects of one man's determination brought lasting change to an industry in need of reform.